It, okay. Oh, it's still clicking.
All right. Well, welcome to the Lunch at Home lunch art talk that coincides with Susan Johnson's retrospective. Most of us know, all of us know who Susan Johnson is. Um, she has been an artist for a long time, and most importantly, well, not most importantly, but for this group, importantly, she has also been a director of the Art Center. So welcome, Susan, and welcome all of you. Um, if any of you would like to say especially hello to Susan, this would be the moment to do so. Fili Matthias.
Yeah, it's on. Oh, hi. Hi. I was telling Fiele to hit our mic,
I
but
was like, it's on.
it's already on.
Yeah.
Yes, we wanted to stop in. First of all, we love Susan's work. And but we also love Susan because 30 years ago, back in 1990, 1991, I walked in to the Corvallis Art Center and asked Susan, hey, have you ever thought of doing a live theater show here? And she said, no, I haven't. And I said, would you? And she said, sure.
Sure.
And so we started, Fiele and I started a theater company at the Corvallis Arts Center under Susan's direction there.
And support.
And her support. She would write letters to the editor for us, and it was great fun. And it was the start for us because one of our shows took us all the way to off-Broadway on a national tour, and now it licenses all over the world. And
when we saw Susan's meeting today, it just brought back so many memories, and how one person can have an amazing ripple effect in the art world.
Yes.
And support. So we wanted to come in and support you and your artwork.
Absolutely.
And to thank you.
Thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, it's really sweet of you to come and comment. A lot of things went on during that time, which still does today in the Art Center. So it's a place that I hope that many people will and do continue to support it.
Yep, we agree.
Okay,
Right.
I see Gail. Oh, I'm not supposed to make the next comment. Sorry.
And Eileen from Waterstone.
Where is Eileen? Oh, hi, Eileen. We
So
said
that is, it is very nice. These artist talks are rather informal conversations where I ask the artist questions and she will respond to that. And when you have a question, please feel free to put something in the chat, and I will try and keep track of that, so all of you will be able to participate in these. So I told a little bit about your background, that you were the director of the Art Center, Susan, but that was not all of what this lifetime of an artist was about. Can you tell us a little bit how did you become an artist? Not everybody does.
well, I think that I'm told, but I don't remember, that my mother took my sister and I had a twin sister, Anne, and took us to a museum in Newark. We lived in New Jersey. And I think that kind of started things, probably. The thing that really, really started things was high school. I went to high school, and my sister and I were identical twins. I think there were probably 10 people in my class, of many, many more, who could tell us apart. And at some point during that senior year, Anne and I were asked to help put together the yearbook for our class, and they had a section of the the book that said this is our best athlete or our best whatever. They called my sister and I the most artistic kids in that high school. And I'm not sure what they thought about the yearbook when we got finished with it, because instead of having nice square rectangular images, ours were all curved and, and did a lot of different things. But it was an important start. And from there, we went to 2 different colleges because we decided somebody had to tell us apart. And I was an art major in Connecticut College, and it was a strong program, a lot of figurative work, and other types of art. But probably the thing that I remember most is that the woman who was my advisor in the art department said, there's a teacher, I want you to go and watch that teacher teach children their art in an art class. She's an art teacher, which is rare at that time, probably still is. Anyway, I went to watch her teach her I don't know, 4th, 5th grade children, 3rd grade maybe. Anyway, during the process, I thought this could be really fun. I like working with kids, and so I followed this teacher around and watched what she was doing, and I said, God, she's an awful teacher. I didn't say it to anybody. I say it today, but I didn't then. I could do a lot better than that. She basically had made things at home or in her office, and then brought them in and then gave them to the students, where they then posted it up on a wall exactly where she wanted it to go. And I said, and there was one kid who lay his head on the desk, refused to do this. And I spent some time talking to him, and I got him started to do whatever she was wanting him to do, except that she got mad at him. And I thought,
so you're
this is something I might like to do, and I would do a better job.
So you had a different philosophy.
Excuse me?
You had a different philosophy of how did you do that differently?
Well, I think what's important to me when I'm working with students, and I've done a lot of teaching since that time, both through preschool and through college students. And it's important that there's some freedom that happens in an art class. And there is no one way to do that class, and so or that work of art, or that play you're going to put on, and so I think that was probably really important to me.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of influence had your teaching practice on your own artwork?
For a while there, for I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I started out teaching at OSU in the art department, as in conjunction with the ed department, and then and I was teaching students who wanted to be elementary school teachers, and that was, I think, a good experience. Although the first one of the classes, I walked into the room and everybody was sitting down except this one guy, a big guy, standing there in the middle of the room, saying, "Why in the hell do I have to take an art class?" So that was another challenge. That was. I have not forgotten that one, but I did get him to settle down. And maybe he did something.
But what I was wondering if teaching changed potentially your way of working.
Um, I think the two wooden sculptures that are in the show, um, uh, those were done with Clint Brown. And Clint Brown looked at me. I was he was a sculptor and a drawing professor in the art department, and he looked at me and he said, "Now I want you to do a sculpture, 6 feet tall, laminated plywood." And I said, Anyway, it was a gutsy thing, and I fortunately have a husband with a wonderful woodworking studio. So I designed it and I did it, but I must say the reason I could accomplish this had a lot to do with my husband. That
So
I think, yes. Um, I think that that and the drawing, did a bunch of drawing classes, so I kind of did both. And the art department said, "We're not teaching art ed anymore. We're going to just have her teach basic design." So I got to basic design and no more art ed. Um, but, things happen in different
if you,
classes.
let's go, let's leave your teaching career as it is now and talk a little bit about the work. So you have a retrospective in the art centers. How is it to have a retrospective?
To me, I'm very thankful for the art center. I didn't ask to do this. I was offered it, and I have a real attachment to the art center. So it was a great opportunity to dig up where a lot of work. We have a closet that goes down the stairs at our house, and it used to be the my daughter and her friends used to make it a playhouse. But it's full of art now, or it was until I got this. Tried to put together some 35 pieces, and they are. I really tried to do it over a period of time because my work has never really had one single style that is different from everybody else's. Partly because at some point Dorothy Matthews said she's going to come and we're going to go to Portland together and go to the art store there, and I want you to try
For
and
those of us who don't remember Dorothy Matthews, she was the owner of Pegasus Gallery at that time.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we went up to Portland and we went to an art store which isn't there anymore, and picked out, saw oil bars, and I have some oil bars here. I don't know whether you can see them, but oil bars are oil paint in stick form, and
If you hold them up a little bit higher,
yeah.
perfect.
Oops, in front of my face. That's better. Anyway, it's a soft oil paint in a stick form, with a paper around it that you peel off periodically, and you can draw on it. I think it influenced. Well, my husband was saying this to me the other day. You can just draw with it and fill in areas, and he said I used to scrape things in it, and so that you'd start filling in an area, and then you'd scratch it out or put layers in. And the other thing that it has to say is a real influence to me is after I graduated from college and Curtis had one more year to go, we got in the car, our VW Bug, and traveled across the country. And I had never been any further west than like the edge of Ohio. And so that visual experience of seeing and we would stop camping on the way across, and we would um, explore places, and it was amazing. And it really the town I grew up in was a pretty little town, but it was certainly not anything like driving across the country, and
Well,
that
would
really
you-
has influence.
Would you say that moving to the West was instrumental or a definite influence for you as in a development as being an artist?
Um, I think it did affect my development as being an artist. Um, when we got west, Curtis was working on his PhD at the University of Washington and in Seattle, and I was teaching first grade for 3 years, and but we would take I would take classes during the summer, and I remember one class where we were to go outside and do some outside imagery, and Curtis came with me, and he did drawing too out there. So that's another influence. We went from the University of Washington down to Eugene. His whole lab moved down there, and then from there down to Berkeley, and so we've had this kind of West Coast life initially, and right at that point I was having my 2 kids, our 2 kids, and so that's another influence in life, that's for sure.
So I want to get back to the oil bar that you used. So can you tell us a little bit about the process of how you make a painting?
Well, what I would do, I probably had a photograph in some way that I took that was not intended to be a quality photograph. It was just an ideograph. It was something that I looked at and saw, and it's like the other day I was looking out the window seat in our living room, and there was my cat, and I went and grabbed the camera because the cat was sitting right next to a piece of sculpture that we bought some time ago, and the two together just did something. I haven't used it yet. Maybe my Christmas card this year. But the first thing with the oil bar is, for me, and a lot of people bought them initially and hate them, and they have a lot of people, like people in my critique group, who had some oil bars, and she said, I can't stand these, and she gave them a whole big tin of them. But I use it on usually a matte board kind of finish, so that it absorbs into the board, and you initially put some kind of a design in there, some kind of shapes that you care about, that interest you, that gets you excited, and you can build one of the interesting things that I liked that's better for me than, aha, there's one. That's that time. In fact, I guess this is my two of my grandchildren, because if it were my son, he would be the bigger one. But you can see that the color is swirling around in there, and then what happens is, if you wait a day, and it's dried somewhat. It doesn't dry. I mean, it takes an oil paint a lot longer than that, and then put one layer on top of another layer, and so I think that's one of the things that I liked about that medium. It's
Heather's getting a little impatient.
Carol. Oh, yeah. She's the one that gave me some oil bars, right? Yeah.
Who is asking the question?
Um,
Let's
she's
see.
gone. Oh, Carol Chapel. She's over here.
Okay. Carol, did you have a question?
I got those oil bar. Oh, let's see. Am I muted?
Yeah,
Um,
no.
Yes, no. I got those from another artist friend. She had a sale. And I thought of Susan at the time. I've never used them myself, but I knew she did. And so, yes, I did get them and give them to her.
I used them for a long time, and after I gave about 8 years to the Art Center, working as the director, and I did no art during that time. I couldn't do there was too many, and I think Cynthia understands that. You just you're busy. But after 8 years, I quit and said I'm gonna go get out my oil bars. I learned about oil bars actually at that point, and I have a couple of friends who, one friend who at that time was an artist at Waterstone Gallery in Portland, and in fact there was another Eileen. There's Eileen, one of the founding members of Waterstone, and I was able to, with some effort, to become part of Waterstone Gallery for 20 years. And most of the work that I did was with oil bars, small and large. And both of these that are behind me, you see a little bit of a tree, and
I'm going to interrupt you. Could you tell us a little bit how it is to be part of an artist collective? How important is that for an artist, a working artist?
what I can think about it in three different ways. In terms of Corvallis, I have a critique group that Cynthia got me involved in it, or allowed me to become a member, and then it was not every other month we would sit and bring something that might be different. There's another. I can't. Oh, Judy's over there, and she's been influential with my artwork, and I buy her work, and she was bought. She's got one. Then the being part of the co-op was a really good experience, except for driving up to Portland. And it was fine for the first half of the time that it was, but the drive got worse and worse and worse and worse. But I love the people that were there. We, in that particular co-op, we probably were the featured artist. Each of us had a chance to be a featured artist, maybe every 3 years or something. Anyway, enough that it was quite. It was a great way. You know what?
You're seeing.
I don't know whether you can see this, but Gail Vanderhyde, who lives across the street, has a bunch of my artwork, and she's showing it to you on her wall.
So this shows how important it is to support an artist, not only by saying, "Oh, your work is wonderful, I love your work," but also to actually purchase it and hang it on your wall. So thank you very much, Gail, for showing that, and also for doing that. Susan, can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration? So what are the different things that inspire you to make pictures of or make paintings of? What do you call them, drawings or paintings?
Depends. The oil bar ones I would kind of call painting, sort of.
Mhm.
The things that
Does it
Gail put up
matter?
are collages. I have 3 or 4 boxes full of cut up paintings, things that I started and didn't like, and the ones that she's showing are all watery, with going through a river. There was a show that I had that I decided I wanted to make everything abstract. I think I learned quite a bit about abstraction and got interested in it when I was a college student, and we weren't that far from New York and the big galleries there, and the beginnings of that time. One thing that happens with oil bars is you kind of put something on there and then look at it, or come back downstairs tomorrow and look at it and say, I don't like that. You got to change that. Well, oil bar, you can go right over what you did yesterday and do something else, or make it thicker, or
So did your paintings change a lot from the beginning stages to later on in composition or color palette?
I think that with oil bars, the color palette was extremely important, and I was very excited to get that bright color. Like this one that's on the screen right now is very strong colors, and I'm a color person. I like that. I like the strong colors. And in fact, it's the only thing I've liked about the weather lately, and it's been quite colorful looking out over Bald Hill, and sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's orange, sometimes one day it was even chocolate looking. But
Yeah, I would recommend people that can to visit the exhibit in person and to watch our slideshow on the website, because it is an explosion of color. You really managed to do that.
I love color. I think there's no doubt about that. That's something that's very, very important to me. I think I don't wear colorful things, but draw colorful things, or paste and cut. There are a lot of work that I've done, as I said, was collage work, that I took one of my paintings and I took it apart, and like the one Scale has, and see what it, Curtis's brother's and his wife is there. I didn't see you. That they live on the East Coast, so although they have lived out here, so it's not so strange. Anyway,
losing all my pictures
that.
here.
Okay.
I wanted to talk briefly about this picture, this image, Susan.
Yes.
Because it has a couple of characteristics of your work that show up time and time and again. So this was after a real place, I assume.
It is. It's right near our favorite camping ground at the beach.
Yeah, yeah.
And so.
Yeah, you mentioned that you camped a lot, and a lot of your images came from those trips. And there are a couple of things that I wanted to point out to people. There is this, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there is this it's called Pathways, Shifting Pathways, number 2. So you've done this more than once. So it has this river really flowing all the way into the painting. And then we see this separate box, also an image within an image. So those are 2 elements that show up time and time again in your work. Could you tell us a little bit about that? You mentioned to me earlier, I love pathways.
Yeah, pathways are an important part of one, just because of the pathway we took from across the country. And also, I just, I don't know, I am turned on by pathways. Uh, the box is really funny experience because this was one of the early shows I had at Waterstone in Portland, and I guess it was maybe the first show I had. I had a kind of inner box and outer box, and the outer box kind of changed the inner box, and then I remember having the next exhibit that I had at Waterstone, and I didn't do any boxes inside boxes, and people kept saying, "Where are the boxes? Where are the boxes? Why did you change that?" And I find that it it is something that I do use over and over again. The tree and the bushes that are in back of my head in here, that has a more realistic box that flows out into an abstract box, and that seems to be particularly good. It's not. I'm looking at Gail's. You don't see the boxes in the collages like you do and there is, and she has a drawing of mine, or a painting. I don't know. I mix between drawing and painting. Anyway, I'd forgotten you have that. That has a real inner box and an outer box, and it just takes the theme and moves part of the inside out, like this happens in this one with the kids.
So are you seeing now the painting that we looked at earlier,
the two,
the sharing knowledge? Because
yes,
there's
sharing.
quite a bit of box going on there.
Yes, and it's a design thing, and maybe partly because I taught basic design. I don't know, but it probably is something that it makes it one thing you draw then affects everything else that is on there. So you have to be prepared to
So these,
do something.
the subject matter of these boxes are very different. In the river scene, you could see the outer box was also the river scene, but here we have a close-up of California poppies, and the tree in the outer box here has no leaves, and here it does. So there's a very different subject matter. Is there a connection between the major scene and this box scene of the poppies?
Well, I see the poppies as the children growing up. They're those oranges and the seeds. That's something that when you take your kids out to explore, and Oregon has, and the West has so many things, wonderful things to explore. It's probably very special in helping children grow and see, and that's another thing. It's really important.
You quite often have these silhouettes and and quite often of family. So what makes family an attractive subject matter for you?
Well, that's interesting because I have in the bathroom next to this room, there are a series of very early drawings that are all silhouettes. And they're silhouettes of me standing on the wall out there. And I guess mostly this is a design issue, but it also is, and partly I think I keep moving around. I'm sorry. The I'm trying to tell a story, show things that should happen or could happen, and it's also, I notice in this particular one, the ground and the greens and the color sort of move into the sky, and yet you put it in a box, and you put it in the other one in a box because it makes it adds to the uniqueness of the image.
You mentioned storytelling. How that plays a big role in your work, and so you moved from representational work, and then you had a show of abstract work. Early on, when you were in school, you worked abstract. But what is the influence of storytelling on being working abstract and representational?
I would say I don't think of myself as a storyteller, although I suppose this image particularly has a strong story atmosphere. But
Yeah, let's see if we can find one.
It's all part of what I do, because I don't know what I'm going to do before I do it. It's it's not a sequence of things that, oh, well, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to tell the next level of the story going on. And I don't think that way. So,
so what gets you in the morning to a studio where if you don't really know what you're going to do? What motivates you to do the work?
I think the piece you did before. You get you do.
Could you explain that?
What came out the day before in your drawing, and you kind of are pushed in a direction by that trial, or you hated it and you got rid of it, cut it up for a collage. But I'm not sure what the answer to that question is.
Yeah, there's a lot of subconscious going on in artist work, and I always try to push to make them more conscious, but it's not always easy. So
one thing I'm thinking, looking at the image that's on the screen right now, I don't know whether everybody gets to see it or not. It's an abstract image, but you do one thing, and then that pushes you in a direction, and you do something following up on that thing. And it might be repetition, it might be big and small. The color will all be part of it. So I don't know. I can't say whether I can be useful with that anymore.
So you moved from using oil bar as your main medium to colored pencil. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
In a way, yeah. About 5 years ago, I had major back surgery, and I had a real, I mean, it was hard to, I picture myself actually during that time at the art center at a reception, and I had to make sure to hang on to the railing there just to go up toward where the piano is, and I wasn't free to move properly. So I ended up getting back surgery, and as they took me out and put me in a room by myself right after the surgery, I had two nurses that worked with me, and one of them brought in a box of colored pencils and said, "Here, you can keep busy this way." And I don't know how she knew that I had any kind of experience with colored pencil. Well, of course, I've had lots of experience with colored pencil with kids, but I never really use it as a serious medium. But right now, I'm sitting at a table that my husband made for me, that after surgery, it was a great place to be able to sit and to do something. And I bought some nice colored pencil that are, fancier colored pencils. And I kind of said, "Can I get a bright color out of these?" And I worked really hard to get color because that was really important to me. And using colored pencil um, and ink. Um, that's where I have been going since that time, just primarily because having been introduced to thinking of colored pencil and that really nice nurse.
Mhm. How what is the difference in challenge between oil bar and colored pencil?
Difference in challenge. Well, the difference in challenge is color, because the color it comes intense in an oil bar right away, and then you can build on top of, and the colored pencil is totally different in terms of its layers of color, but it isn't. You can't. I've gotten pretty good at getting a fairly strong color, but it is something I've been working at.
Do you need a lot of patience for uh, colored pencil?
Um, it's the ink part you need the patience with. If I'm using ink, in like these kind of pens, um, that needs patience. It's easy to make a mess out of what you're doing. And the colored pencils are, in a way, they're more fun and looser than using the ink, but I think I need both of them, and I get a stronger color if I use some black in there around the color. And so I haven't done as much lately because I have some family obligations, and I I come and go. And of course, it took me 2 or 3 months to get this show together, and so I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I collect all those pieces. Hopefully, some of them will have sold. Um,
Yeah, I hope so too.
yeah,
And I would have to tell people they are priced to sell. And
yeah, they aren't.
Susan,
They're not Waterstone prices. They aren't Portland prices.
exactly. This is a great opportunity for those of you who want to support both the artist and the art center. Susan is donating her commission to the art center, so you're doing a good deed and you're getting a beautiful painting. Just saying. I'm not trying to do a sales pitch here. So Susan,
No.
what what's your favorite tool? Do you have a favorite tool, or is it
Well,
just
I
the
think both
pencil?
for oil bars and for colored pencil, the tool is the color, and
Mhm.
it's you use your hands and you put it down there with one of those mediums, and so
Yeah, yeah,
that's a kind of tool. It is a tool for me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Well, you know,
Well,
people,
there's usually a box over here, and on that box, or a chair, a high chair, uh, is my cat. My cat sits there whenever I come in here. We've had to kick her out of here during these sessions. um, I don't know. It's a friendly thing that I like, and of course, I also like this guy over here who built all the furniture that's in this room, um, and
yes.
and everything that you know.
So that comes back to family. And for most female artists, family is an important element in their life, and they show up in your artwork quite a bit. Uh, you're being an artist. What kind of feel did that give to the rest of the family?
Well, I think one, I have a husband who supported me financially, which is really nice. Um, and but also who's quite artistic himself. Um, he used to make furniture and beautiful furniture, and then he has been after not being able to do that physically, and being able, furniture is very precise. You have to measure everything exactly.
And people can see in the art center at least two examples. There is a shaker style bench in the gallery. And now for your show, there is a bin with some shrink wrapped of your work that he made too. And it's beautifully put together.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that the fact that both of us, I was talking to somebody recently, and I don't know their history, except it seemed obvious to me that that this person wasn't accustomed to having the support system that I had, and I'm very lucky, and not only from my husband, but then there are friends in here that I notice that I'm really glad they're here, and they have been friends or relatives. Um, my daughter's very artistic, does big paintings, so she's gotten somewhere from this process. My son built houses for a while, and um, I'm giving a signal to
So, so what family and what kind of role that played? My mother was an artist too, and she kept us busy with. If she didn't want to deal with us, she gave us art supplies and do something. Um, I could picture that your household was like that as well.
Well, yeah, I think we all, all those colored pencils that aren't the fanciest ones are the kids have been using and grandkids have been using. Um, and there is something, and you do learn in a way from your kids or from your family. I would say that I think that somehow there was an artistic bent in my mother, but she never really did anything. I mean, what I remember most of an art thing, it was when she took us into New York City, and she felt very comfortable in the city because after she graduated from high school, she became she worked in New York City. So anyway, the Museum of Modern Art and when they first opened up, I remember her taking us and walking around
So you were exposed to
Yeah.
looking at art at a very early age.
And she, I remember her saying to me at one point, and this was while I was in college, and she was taking us to see some work. Um, she said, "Oh well, maybe it was worthwhile spending all that money putting you in college." So it was worthwhile to me anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have had a really great support system. Period.
So you mentioned the colored pencils of the kids and the fancy colored pencils that you have now. What's the difference?
The one, they're more expensive. The Prismacolor has has a softness to it, and so you can draw and you can get it fill in areas and get a pretty strong color. If you, I want you to all look over here on the left, but you can't do that. There's a sunset picture in there for some event that happened. I don't know. Well, it's okay. It's just that I seem to have lost it, but they just come in different texture and a different and
Yeah.
I can build.
So it's worthwhile to even as a beginning artist to fork over the money and buy nice pencils.
Yeah, well, and that's what Dorothy Matthews said to me. And after we bought the paint, the oil bars that I was telling you about up in Portland, her family had a boat on the river, and we went there and sat and played with oil bars. And so that's, in a way, that's a kind of family or a friend thing that has certainly been influenced.
So I want to encourage people from the audience to go into the chat at the bottom of your screen. There's a number of things, and in the middle it says chat. If you click that, you can type a question, and this is the moment that you can ask Susan what you always wanted to know about her and her work. And I think that we are going to move in the infamous last question, Susan. If money and space was not something you have to think about, what is the artwork that you would like to own?
To own?
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you have to make that commitment of owning.
To owning. Well,
So
if you walk
you
through
have to
the house,
want to be able to live with it.
if you walk through our house, it is full of artwork that I want to own. The latest piece we got down in Santa Fe, something it took 2 years. Curtis pushes to buy art, and that I'm always a little more hesitant. Why, I don't know, except that, well, that's a lot of money. I don't.
Those darn artists and their high prices.
But I think you also would notice if you walk through the house that the style of the work and the kind of work really varies immensely. And so it's it's just, I'm doing an and that's my husband said, make sure you don't do that. But that's I'm not used to lecturing anymore. It's been a long time.
So the artwork that you would like to own.
Own some art. You mean some famous piece of artwork?
It doesn't have to be famous necessarily. It's just something that you would really want to live with. And I know you have a lot that you are already living with, but this opens up, size wouldn't matter. You could say, I want the Sistine Chapel I'm
Well,
not sure if that is the one you want, but
about owning work.
yeah.
There was an exhibit recently that had included my daughter, a painting by my daughter, our daughter, and oh, I know, it was during Open Studio, where there were four of us artists together taking up this space, and my daughter was one of them, and she did a very large painting of a along the river in Portland, and or at least some river, I think a big river, and uh, as soon as it went up on the wall, there's a little red dot on it. I
Was it
It
your
was
red
my
dot or
husband.
somebody else's red dot?
My husband said, "That's mine." So
So it was his red dot?
it was he was buying my daughter's horror piece at the at our open studio, because and I love that piece, so I have to say it's great. I see a hand going up that says, "Stop."
No, it's applauding you. It's applauding you for supporting your daughter not only as a mother but also as an art collector, because it is important. Having
Esther,
Yes.
there's somebody who wanted to share a piece that she has on her wall behind her. So I'm going to ask her, Michelle, to unmute, and then you'll be able to, it'll make your screen bigger and you can share that.
Well, I was fortunate enough to visit Susan and Curtis last year when I was at Gail and Tony's house across the street. And I carried back this lovely picture behind me, all back to Ohio. And every day I get to look at it and it brings me great joy. And it was such a lovely visit. And I think of them often and thank them.
It's a wonderful memory.
And that's something art can do for you. It gives you makes connections.
Are there other people in the audience that have a painting from Susan's in their that they can share on their screen? We saw Gail shared this, and
Oh, there's lots of. There's Judy.
Judy. Yeah, Judy, show it closer. Yeah.
That's an inner box.
Yes.
There's an inner box and an outer box. And I think that's from
Yeah.
I
from
have
And
the
going.
abstract one.
you did that piece, it's of my field. And I don't know if you remember, you came over and you took a picture of the field.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. We have it hanging in our bedroom. I love it.
Ah.
And Curtis is his brother and spouse had a nice landscape, I think there. Yeah.
Where are we on?
Yeah, I saw it. And I
That
think
was-
actually it was a place that was like at Judy's, or also somebody
It's hard.
when we have Thanksgiving at our house, we go out and visit wineries on
Thanksgiving.
the next day, and I think that was when I was visiting a winery, and something like that anyway.
Well, with that, I want to thank everybody that joined us from far away, both in time and in location. It was so lovely of you to come. Susan, I would like to thank you on so many levels. I say it every time. Susan hired me. Yes. And I remember Feely and Matthias, you had a play called The Land of Nod.
Yes,
Esther, we remember you as well.
we remember you, Esther. Yes.
Taking the chairs out, always asking you, hey, can we take the chairs out? Or you're like, we remember your artwork as well.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
So it is really fun that you're here and came to visit Susan. Eileen, it's lovely to see you too. Please, if you have an opportunity, go and see the exhibit because it's so wonderful. And it's so wonderful, Susan, to see your work filling that place that has been so important to you for 7 years. Seems a short time in a lifespan, but I think for the community of Corvallis, it was a very important 7 years. Thank you for being an artist. Thank you for making so much artwork and sharing it with us and being on Zoom several times.
A brand new experience.
This is it. But all of